Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mocha Latte After Dark. I am your host, JJ Fitzgerald, and today's topic is compassion. For those of you who may or may not know, I am a podcast producer for another entity, and we did a live episode about substance use disorder. Before I took this job, I was really ignorant when it came to substance use disorder, and I used very stigmatizing, very dehumanizing language like crackhead, drug addict, junkie, you name it, because I had no idea the impact that it had on people who were struggling with substance use disorder. And this was during a time when my ex-husband was actively struggling with substance use disorder. I had no idea how opioids and other substances transform one's brain. I used to tell him, just stop using, just stop, just pray, and all these things. And I'm not saying you shouldn't pray, but it changes your brain. And I just wish I had known all of this information when he was going through his struggles. His decision to end his life definitely changed the trajectory. Fortunately, thank God, my kids have been very resilient. They're doing very well. They're living their lives in a positive way. But I do wish that I had known more. There's something called harm reduction that's somewhat controversial because some people say that it encourages drug use. And I will say that I probably would have said the same thing before I took this job. But they have needle exchange programs. And for those of you who don't know what a needle and syringe exchange program is,
according to Wikipedia, a needle and syringe program, also known as needle exchange program, is a social service that allows injecting drug users to obtain clean and unused hypodermic needles and associated paraphernalia at little or no cost.
So essentially, the person who is using goes to a place and they're given clean needles, because a lot of times when people are using on the streets, some of them use the same needles over, they may share needles, so it's a safer way for people to do drugs and not put themselves at risk. Research has shown that harm reduction actually has helped people overcome substance use disorder and has connected people with resources. So it's actually more effective than some people think. Another big issue is fentanyl. So there are fentanyl test strips that can be acquired. This way you can check to see if the substance that you're about to take has been laced with fentanyl. So that has also been able to help with saving lives. I've also heard some stories of people taking in their friends or family members who are actively in their substance use disorder and allowing them to do drugs or whatever their substance is in their home, just so that they are present and able to be aware of what's happening to them. So if they do OD, if they do overdose, there's someone there to potentially save their life. There are also safe injection facilities. And essentially what that is not only do they provide clean needles and injection equipment, they also provide a safe space for people to inject their drugs. And there's medical supervision of the injection process. Naloxone, or sometimes it's known as Narcan, is something that people who have close ties with someone who is actively using substances should have on hand. Naloxone is the actual medication. Narcan is the manufacturer. It reverses the effects of an opioid overdose, and it's another life-saving tool. Some states provide free naloxone or provide it for a low cost, so you should definitely check within your state to see where you can get at. Free condoms is another form of harm reduction. Because of sharing needles, sometimes someone may have hepatitis or HIV, and so having free condoms helps reduce the risk of transmitting those diseases. For me, had I known all of these things when my ex was actively using substances, I would have, 1, exercised radical acceptance and met him where he was. Number 2, I would have been more compassionate and been more proactive in helping him during his struggles. I would have called him more. I just kind of abandoned him when he didn't listen to what I thought was the best way for him to handle his situation. And that's something that haunts me almost every day. And I know that God led me to this job to open my eyes and not project what I think is right or the right way to fix something, and to understand that people struggle in various ways, and to be kind and loving, even if I don't understand why they're doing whatever it is that they're doing, because there's always a reason, and it's not up to me to decide that their reason doesn't make sense or their actions are not justified. And I know that had I been the person that I should have been, he more than likely would be with us today. If you or a loved one are struggling with substance use, please contact the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration National Helpline at 1-800-662-4357, 1-800-662-4357. If you or someone you know is having suicidal ideations, you can contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline by dialing 988 or by calling 1-800-273-8255. 1-800-273-8255. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Mocha Latte After Dark. I am your host, JJ Fitzgerald, and as always, be true.